A long time ago, a woodcutter and his wife lived in a small cottage on the outskirts of town. Their life was a simple one. Though they lacked money, the couple was happy. The couple had tried unsuccessfully for years to have a child, with the woman growing increasingly upset at her inability to become pregnant. She began praying to the gods that she may become pregnant, with her only wish being that her child was pure at heart. Eventually, the woman became pregnant, much to the joy of herself and the woodcutter. However, this joy would not last, as while giving birth, the woman passed away, leaving the woodcutter to care for his son alone. The woodcutter loved his son and did the best to raise him. However, it was incredibly difficult, as he often worked long, tiring hours. Eventually, the woodcutter remarried, happy that he could finally have the complete family he always wanted. This woman was not the ideal wife, as although she appeared kind on the surface, evil coursed through her veins. Much of her malice was directed at the boy, as she was jealous of the attention his father bestowed upon him. Her hatred of the boy led her to severely mistreat him when his father wasn't around, feeding him little more than scraps of bread and beating him mercilessly. Eventually, she concocted a plan to lead the boy into the woods and abandon him there, ridding herself of the burden of caring for him. One fateful autumn day, she convinced the boy to accompany her into the woods on a trip to forage for wild mushrooms. Once they were far off the trail, the evil stepmother pushed the boy into a thicket of thorns and turned around and ran as he struggled to get out of the tangle. When he freed himself, he saw that his stepmother was nowhere to be found. Bloodied and scared, the boy wandered aimlessly in the woods, unable to remember the way from which they had come. The boy spent the night alone, freezing as the temperature had dropped significantly below freezing in the night. Weakened from chronic malnutrition and the cold, the boy stumbled through the woods for the rest of the day, until at dusk he came across a seldom-used road cutting through the forest. Lacking the strength to travel any further, the boy collapsed at the side of the road and endured another night of bitter cold. When he awoke the next day, he lacked the strength to get up and resigned himself to stay on the side of the road, his life slowly leaking from his body. Sometime later, the god Dionysus came across the boy as he lay on the side of the road. Bewildered at the sight of the dying youth on the side of the remote road, the god stopped and began to speak to the boy, inquiring what happened. The boy recounted his tale of abuse and being left to die by his stepmother to the god, incurring his sympathy. At the conclusion of the boy's story, the life finally left his body and he died there on the side of the remote road. Feeling pity for the boy and sensing his pure heart, the god revived the boy and told him that because of his suffering he would grant the boy anything he wanted. The boy asked Dionysus for the ability to have anything he touched turn to gold. Warning the boy to carefully consider his wish, the boy again insisted that he wished to have anything he touched turn to gold, in order to provide money for his poor family so his beloved father didn't have to perform back-breaking labor anymore. Dionysus granted the boy his wish and then pointed him in the direction of the town, where his father was worried sick about the disappearance of his son. On his way back toward town, the boy is mystified by his newfound powers. He touches a number of rocks, turning them into gold nuggets which he places in his pockets. As he walks along, a butterfly hovers near him. Admiring its beauty, he stretches out his hand toward it and the butterfly flutters onto his finger. However, to the boy's horror, the butterfly instantly turns to gold when it lands on his finger. Realizing the dangers of his powers, the boy rushes to make it back to town as soon as possible in hopes that he could build a stockpile of gold and then be rid of his powers. Back in town, the boy rushes through the streets, eager to see his father. Running down a narrow alleyway, he turns a corner and nearly runs into a woman. After stopping in the nick of time, he notices that the woman he nearly ran into was his stepmother, on her way to the market. The stepmother is shocked to see that the boy is alive and becomes fearful that he will expose her to his father. She feigns relief that he is alive and insists that she takes him at once to see his father, as he has been very worried about his son. As she walks the boy back to town, she makes sure to travel behind him, thinking of ways she could finally rid herself of him. As they pass by a construction site on the outskirts of town, the woman spots a large rock and picks it up, cruel intentions bubbling in her veins. The boy, suspicious of the stepmother's intentions, watches her pick up the rock out of his peripheral vision. At once she charges at him, intent upon bashing his head in with the rock. However, the boy was prepared and trips her as she reaches him, sending her falling into a shallow ravine along the side of the road. The stepmother, injured in her fall, pleads to the boy to help her, saying that she will ensure he dies if he doesn't come to her aid. Looking down at the stepmother in the ravine, the boy extends a hand to her, fully aware of what will happen if she touches him. She reaches out and grabs his outstretched hand, instantly turning herself into gold, dying in the process. The boy then travels home and informs his father of what has happened. His father is sorry that he has put his son through this ordeal, but is overjoyed that he is still alive. The two return to the stepmother's golden corpse, carrying it back to the house. The boy then turns numerous things around the house and surrounding woods into gold, accumulating a stockpile in the family woodshed. After accumulating a large stockpile of gold, the boy prays to Dionysus to take away his powers, as he just wishes to go back to living a normal life. Dionysus, hearing the boy's cries and sensing his pure heart, lifts the boy's wish from him. The boy hugs his father, and the two lived happily ever after.